So several months ago I decided I would begin video recording my exploration of historical and conflict gaming, hex and counter games, miniatures games, and even on occasion reference to computer games or even computer or replays of computer games. This ongoing documentary continues with another chapter in a replay of the Battle of Nicopolis. This is from Crusades 2, from 3W, from Robert Markham, from the Royalist and Roundheads family of games. When I was sitting here reviewing my play, it occurred to me that I have been forgetting to use the unit type modifier table here. And then I was wondering, how on earth did I forget this? And then, even though it's right under the melee table, I don't know how I could have missed it. But I still, as a matter of habit, go right down the melee table modifiers step by step by step. And for some reason I was used to there being a bullet here. Just like this bullet says check terrain effects chart for other modifiers. I was used to there being, for some reason, I was used to a bullet being there. Or I thought I remember there being a bullet, something like check unit type modifier table for other modifiers. Again, it is right below there. How you could miss it, I don't know, but I did. But then when I checked out the rules, I was surprised to find out that actually for Crusades 2, the unit type modifier table is actually given at the very, very, very end of the rule set as an optional rule under the advanced rules section. Again, way at the end of the rules before the final credits. So I guess that was another reason why I just plain missed it. But that means that these Ottoman skirmishers, this front line here, when the skirmish units are not able to retreat before combat, and then they're not able to retreat before melee, then they're going to be hit with a very heavy -3 die roll modifier penalty when the heavy, might even be worse than that. No, +3. So when the heavy cavalry attacks skirmishers, they're going to be hit with a very heavy +3 modifier there. So that might make a difference. This is the start of turn 4. It's the 1100 turn in the morning. Ottoman player is the first player. We look to change the orders phase. Together, both sides look at changing orders. Just to review again, Burgrave and his Transylvanians over here, they just switched to an advance order. They just successfully changed to an advance order. So they're going to advance at least a turn or two before trying to transition to the attack. Pure and his French cavalry knights continue under their attack order. Sigismund is still in reserve with his main body force there. And then over here, Mercia and his Wallachians are still under a reserve order. So they should probably try to switch to advance as well. On the Ottoman side, Bayezid will remain on a stand, and the Prince of Serbia with his allies will stick with a reserve order for now. They'll wait and see what happens here in the center of the battle. See what develops, what transpires. We only have one attempt to change an order. So again, we look at the leader, Mercia. He has a command rating of 4. That's the lower left value there of 4. So his command rating is 4. He is not within the command span of his army leaders. Sigismund back here. Sigismund only has a command span of 4 anyway, so nowhere near enough command span to get over here to Mercia. So he just rolls, he rolls a 9, which is not equal to or less than his command rating. So he does not successfully change his orders this turn. So that is the order phase. Now we go to the first player movement phase. We look quickly. Are there any Ottoman units that are out of command? All the Serbs are together. Bayezid and including his Sipahis, are all together. And the skirmish units here, all the skirmish units indicated by the white bands, they do not have to be in command. They're never out of command. So we know this is a skirmish unit because of the white band across it. The other colored bands correspond to the formation. So all of the Serb units that fall under the Prince of Serbia have this light blue band across it. Bayezid has yellow, and so forth. So no Ottomans are marked out of command. So now we just go to move. Bayezid's units can move 1 hex with their stand order, but they will stay put. The Serbs will move, actually. They have a reserve order. They can move up to their full movement allowance, but they cannot move within 5. Cannot move closer than 5 hexes from an enemy unit. So what they're going to do is they're just going to... that's a free facing change. That's a free facing change. Prince of Serbia's stack here will go 1, 2, and then 3 to change facings. They're cavalry, so they have enough movement points to do that. And then here we have the last Serbian unit there. He goes 1 and 2 to change facing. Only changing facing at first in the initial hex of the move is free. Facing changes after that are one movement point per facing change. Doesn't matter how many vertices you pass when you change your facing. Okay, now we go back to the Ottoman irregular units here. Skirmish units want to adjust themselves. The routed unit here, he can move up to half of his movement allowance away from the enemy. So he can go 1, 2. They don't have any facing. While they're routed, there's no facing for those units. Huh. I never paused to consider the implications of that. Facing. Huh. You know, I think I might have been playing that wrong. Facing. Oh no. All combat units except skirmish units and routed combat units have zones of control and facing. Well, I'm going to continue playing the way that I implied this. There are statements made about skirmish units. Skirmish units have no facing. All hex sides are considered front. Combat units may only move through one of their frontal hex sides. Since skirmish units have no facing, they never pay such costs. That's for facing changes. So there are these statements, specific statements made about skirmish units without reference to routed units, except at the very beginning of the section. All combat units except skirmish units and routed combat units have zones of control and facing. That implies combat units do not have facing or zones of control. Effects being routed. And it kind of makes sense that you wouldn't have facing and all that stuff because a routed unit is not trying to maintain any fixed formation. Routed units have no Zocs. Well, I'll continue with the way I was interpreting the rules. Interesting. Okay. All right. This rallied skirmish unit 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Actually, let's try to pick. Maybe he wants to try to pick off this Wallachian skirmish bow unit here. Zones of control. Routed units have no Zocs. They have no Zocs. They have no rear. They have no facing. All right. Where is it? Skirmish units. Skirmish units. Skirmishers in command. They may not enter an enemy combat unit zone of control, but the skirmish unit doesn't have a zone of control. They may move adjacent to an enemy skirmish unit. So let's say he does that. 1, 2, 3, 4. As long as they are not entering another enemy unit's Zoc, and he's not, because the Zoc is here, and it's here. Okay. I'm noting more things in the rule book to remember. That's really misleading. That is really misleading. Ugh. Retreat before combat rules. Again. Alright. Now. So, these skirmish units should be able to do this, because zones of control are only exerted through the front and flank hexes, not the rear. So since the heavy cavalry are facing this direction, that direction, and these bow units should be able to come up behind and get adjacent so that they can have a better chance of hitting. This doesn't really make... How much sense does this make? Well, maybe I'm just missing something. We have a dismounted skirmish unit. This is the movement phase. He's adjacent to French heavy cavalry and charging heavy cavalry. It's the movement phase. Why can't he just walk away? Because leaving a ZOC, a combat unit that begins a movement phase in an enemy ZOC, may move out of that ZOC if it has a retreat, stand, muster, reserve command. Oh, okay. All right. This is it's not spelled out, but by process of elimination, that would not count for skirmish units, because skirmish units have their own stipulations under the skirmishers and command rules. So even though combat units with a retreat, stand, muster, reserve command can just march away, the skirmish unit cannot, but it has to wait for just prior to the combat phase. Although I'm not sure why, but yeah. This is what happens with this game. You just start questioning one or two rules, and then it seems to snowball, and you just wind up finding one apparently questionable thing after another, even though when I started the game everything seemed clear enough. Alright. Leaving a ZOC has a distinct rules section, and it is dependent on the order you have. And the only other stipulation is routed units are not leaving enemy ZOC, period. So it's not a routed unit. It doesn't have any of those commands, because it doesn't have any command because it's a skirmish unit. So I guess by process of elimination it cannot leave a ZOC as a part of movement. Okay. I don't even know where I was in the sequence of play. I guess I was in movement. Alright, movement's done. Go to the Ottoman, first player or Ottoman combat phase, defensive fire. Well, no, this is where there's the option to retreat before combat. So let's just try that, just exercise the rules. So here is where we have, okay, now under skirmishers in command, may retreat up to 3 hexes from an enemy cavalry unit zone of control. That's what we clearly have here. Only if roll an 8, 9, or he rolls a 7, just missed it anyways. So we did not get to retreat before combat. Nobody else is going to try. Okay, so it must be owning player. Well, that's what's so vague. It says before the combat phase. Of course, there are 2 combat phases per turn. So which one are they talking about? I guess it's implied that it's the friendly combat phase. All right. Defensive fire would be the Crusaders, and they have some now. They have some now. We have a Crusader bow unit here. 3 hexes away to the Ottoman dismounted bowman bow unit. The Transylvanian bow unit, yep, can fire out to 3 hexes. His bow, there are no modifiers. The only modifiers are from the range table. There are none at 3 hexes. Terrain modifiers, there's no terrain that's relevant here. -1 if target is Crusader Heavy Cavalry. It's not the case. And target -1 if target is Men-at-Arms. Does not apply. Rolls a 4, not enough to hit. What he does need under these circumstances, 7 or better. It's actually not bad odds at the max range of 3 hexes. And then we have this one over here. So the Ottoman mounted bow came adjacent to the Wallachian dismounted bow unit. So the dismounted bow unit is going to fire. It gets a +1 at range 1. Gets that +1. Bow, range 1, +1 die roll modifier. That means that it's really a 6 or better. And he rolls a 1, not even close. That is that. For defensive fire, now we go to offensive fire. Yeah, so now we go to all of this fire. All right, we're going to have a lot of fire at dismounted. And this is, wait, that's a morale check. Oh no, wait, not for the mounted bow. Not for the mounted bow, but dismounted bow misses. Mounted bow misses. Dismounted bow actually gets a morale check. That's this dismounted bow right here. Gets a morale check on the Jean-Pierre's stack. This is, and no, it's not. Okay, so they all fired, and all they got was a morale check on Jean-Pierre's stack. Ooh, so let's be 7. 7. Okay, -1 for the commander being present is 6, which is below his charging morale of 8. So he passes his morale check. That was offensive fire. Now we go to the Ottoman melee. There is no Ottoman melee. Ottoman rally. We have the routed unit here. He is within the command span of Bayezid and Prince of Serbia. So again, we're going with the convention of allowing skirmish units to rally if they are within the command span of any leader on the board. He rolls a 5, +1 for being routed is 6, which is less than his morale of 7. So he rallies. That is all of the Ottoman rallies. It's not turn 5, so we're not rolling for victory yet. We're not looking to roll for victory yet. And then we go to the Crusader half of the turn. Okay, we have some. The first half of the player movement phase is determining out of command, and we have some. We definitely have some. So here's Jean-Pierre. Obviously he's in command being adjacent, but these two are now become out of command. They now become out of command, and we'll look at what that means. The first thing, if you look under effects of being out of command, now move adjacent to enemy combat units. If in an enemy zone of control, they may not move. That skirmish unit is not exerting a zone of control, though. They receive no die roll modifiers for command shit during melee. If they move, they must move within command span of their leader or as close to this as possible. So they can move closer to Jean-Pierre, their leader. Charging heavy cavalry units flip to their non-charging side unless they're in the enemy Zoc. Unless they're in an enemy Zoc, in that case they remain on their charging side. So he flips and is marked out of command. He is flipped and marked out of command. Alright, who else? Everybody else is... Oh, there's another one. Yep. The one back here. He's out of command as well. Alright, so more than half of Jean-Pierre's formation is out of command. Maybe it's time that Sigismund rolls up into the fight. Alright. Now we go to Crusader movement. Okay. Starting over here, they have a reserve order. We said that he does count for reserve units moving closer. So if any of these guys are going to move, they must try to get out of that 5 hex range. They must get out of that zone caused by enemy combat units. I'd rather just have them wait and try to change to an advance order or even an attack order. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He needs to change his order from reserve, though. He'll do that. He can do that automatically as an overall leader. Movement. I'll just try to get back into command by extension. So if they move, they must try to move back into command span. So none of these skirmish units are exerting Zocs, so just go free facing change 1, 2, 3. They may not enter an enemy combat unit zone of control. I'm thinking about the Janissaries here. They got to stay outside of these hexes, and this hex, and this hex. So free facing change 1, 2. still in Orange County. Advance. These guys can advance. 1, 2, Battle of the Skirmishers. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Advance orders. Yeah, they're all going closer to the enemy, so it's okay. 1, 2. Let's leave that there. All right, that is Crusader movement. Now we go to Crusader combat phase. So first, retreats before combat. They're all heavy cavalry, so the French are they're all heavy cavalry, so I don't see why I wouldn't just try to retreat before combat all the way around. So I'm going to start here. Let's go all the way around. Whoever gets away. Oh wait, I can do up to 3 hexes. Of course, I don't know why I would do more than 1. It's not like I don't want to do combat. I'm just I'll make it harder for. Okay, that's all. Actually, of 5 tested, only 1 succeeded. That's, yeah. Okay, so only 1 succeeded. Oh, it's not their combat phase, which again I'm assuming do they mean? Seems like any combat phase would be too much, but maybe retreating before. Wait a minute, why would. You know, now that I think about it, there is nothing that implies. Yeah, actually there is nothing that implies that it's not the combat phase. Okay, let's go back to interpreting it as any combat phase. So any skirmish unit can try to retreat before combat, before the start of any combat phase. Okay. Okay. Crusader combat phase. Okay. Does any other school? Why wouldn't he just? I mean, why is he going to stick around? So, I mean, what? Why is he going to stick around unless he thinks that he has to fire on that particular Transylvanian skirmish unit? So this would be. Oh. You may always retreat up to 3 hexes from an enemy infantry unit zone of control. But that is not an infantry unit zone of control. That is no zone of control. Okay, so I guess that just means it's not going to apply there at all. so skirmish units can't retreat before combat in front of other skirmish units. Okay, that's that. So we go to so we go to defensive fire. So Ottoman defensive fire. Yeah. Start over here. Dismounted bow, 1 away. It's +1. 8. Dismounted bow is a morale check. Pass. Mounted bow. Minus misses. Foot bow. Hits with a morale check. Actually, I'm about to check right now. He fails. Because this is 7 minus 1, 6. And he rolled an 8. So he definitely fails a morale check. Oh, that's interesting. Do they ever deal with the fact that if he retreats here, can he be fired on again? Man. Oh man. All fire combat single hex must be resolved before resolving. No unit may fire at a range of service unit. Combat units may be fired at more than once during a single fire combat phase, but combat units may only fire once during each phase. So that makes it sound like he retreats 1, he gets fired at again. Huh. 1, 2, 3. Morale check. 6 minus 1 for the leaders, 5, which is below his 8. He's fine. Well, actually, there's more fire against the hex. But now I only need to get a... Yeah, so I didn't get another result. Step loss result. Okay, defensive fire. 2, 3. -1. -2. Huh. Alright, so does he get to fire on him again? He's firing 2 hexes away. The only thing that's a result is a 10. He doesn't get it. But if he had gotten a 10, -1 for range is 9, -1 for... I assume the routed unit is a Crusader Heavy Cavalry. He still gets his -1 because... I don't even know why. Because it's still Heavy Cavalry, I guess. So that would be an 8, which for mounted bow would still be a morale check. Oh, yeah. So a routed unit still conducts a morale check with a +1 die roll modifier for being routed. Okay. I think that works. Kind of. Alright, so that was defensive fire. Now we do offensive fire. Transylvanian bow unit there. Misses. And then the Wallachian way up here is also a foot bowman. Combat strength of 2, movement value of 4, morale of 7. Alright, so he rolls a 6, plus 1 for range is 7. Okay, 7 on the foot bow is a morale check. So the mounted bow, the Ottoman mounted bow unit has to conduct a morale check. Ooh, he rolled a 7, which is 1 more than his current morale of 6. So he routs. What does he want to do, though? He might as well route as much as he can. He's out here on his own, and route back towards the army commander, leader, the overall leader. Alright. Now we go to Crusader melees. Jean-Pierre is definitely still going strong. You'll melee that unit there. He's not meleeing because he's a skirmish unit. Out of command units cannot, I'm sure, initiate. They receive no die roll modifiers for their command shit during melee. So it makes it sound like they can melee. Which means that I should have paid attention to their facing. So he's an out of command unit. He can still melee. Yeah. I guess they can. Oh, yeah. Oh. Alright. So, first melee. The attacker is going to roll for commitment. He has a current charging morale of 8, -1 for being present with the leader. Rolls a 2, -1 is 1. He's easily in. Now we go to, this is a foot skirmish unit. Skirmish units being attacked by cavalry units, yes. They retreat on die roll of 8, 9, or 10. We'll try to retreat. He gets a 10. So he retreats. So 1, 2. Attacker must then advance at least 1 unit into the vacated hex. Clearly he can do a facing change now. It's the end of his melee. I guess I'm doing that right. Alright, French heavy cavalry there. Tries to commit, yeah, easily, rolls a 1, he's in. Now here, this is the same thing. It's a skirmish unit trying to retreat before combat for melee with a enemy cavalry unit. Yeah, 8, 9, or 10. Just missed it with a 7. So now he rolls He has no facing, so yeah, it doesn't matter. Yep, he rolled a 1, so he is in. So they're both in. Now we go to the actual fighting. Remember to use the unit type modifier table now. Crusaders roll a 4. Let's see if he can get enough modifiers. He has combat strength of 6, so he's on the 4 to 6 column. Oh, he doesn't get... Oh, he's out of command, so he doesn't get the benefit of his command. But I guess he would still get the unit type modifier table. I guess so. I don't see any reason why it would not. Oh, here's the example of the... There's a note. Alright, so we have the French heavy cavalry trying to melee the Ottoman mounted bowman, who's a skirmisher because of the white stripe. And here we have the one note, one note that's particular to a scenario on the player aid card. In the Nicopolis scenario, there are mounted bowmen who are designated as skirmishers. For the purposes of the unit type modifier table, they count as bow cavalry. So, attacking heavy cavalry against mounted bows +2. But that's not as bad as +3 for skirmishers, so +2. So 4, 5, 6. It's just barely a morale check. Let me show you how close that was. 4 to 6 column. Down there 6. Morale check. Just barely. So now I'll put that reminder on there. And then, okay, he battles back. Strength of 2, nowhere near. It's just not going to get a result. Now we go to his morale check. 5, so he passes. Morale is a 6, he rolled a 5. Huh. That's the melee. Huh. That was a Crusader melee. That was, scratching my head just a bit from all of that. Crusader rally phase. It's out of command, not rallying. Here we have the routed stack. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he is within the command span of his leader. These skirmish units do not block the counting 1, 2, 3, 4. So he gets to rally. He needs to get his printed morale is 7 minus 1 for a step loss is 6. 6. 5 plus 1 for being routed is 6. So he equaled his current morale, so he rallies. Yep. We don't start victory checks until turn 5. We don't start looking for victory checks. So that's the end of turn 4. We move on to turn 5, which is the 11:30 turn. And we'll pause for a break here.